Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining me again down here in the lair. I am Brendan, and welcome back to Just Plain Crazy. Today we are assembling the Yak 11. This is a 1450 millimeter 6S plane. It's time to put it together. What do you say we dig right into this build? Let's go. So what we have here in front of us, the quick startup guide, the little QR code here that you scan. Now, when I did scan that, it did not go through, but if you still want or like really cool, colorful directions, head on over to HobbyKing.com, click on the Yak 11, and at the bottom under resources and documents, you will see that there is the quick startup guide and a full color descriptive manual that is very good. So anyway, I'm going to go through the steps with you now. It's not like there's a lot. So that didn't work, but the stuff is there, but you have this as a reference as well. I'm going to use foam tack in this project. This is beacon glue. It's the same stuff. It's a big bottle from Hobby Lobby. It's actually a little bit more cost effective. We have Blenderm tape. That way I can use to apply to all of our live hinges so we don't ever have issues with those down the road. And an assortment of tools and screwdrivers and stuff. So that's all we need. Let's get started. So first things first, let's go ahead and take up our X-Acto knife, and we're just going to rough up some of this foam here on the inside. Create some lines, grooves, ridges, that type of stuff, because I put foam tack in here to help this surface bond together. Now that that's roughed up, we're going to go ahead and install some of our foam glue on the main wing spar. We're going to insert that into place. Like so. And we're going to do the same thing here for the other side. And I'm also going to put some right down here in the center, so that way it bonds in the middle. And easy enough. Let's slide our wing halves together. Now, what's nice with foam tack is if you take it and slide it apart, give it a few seconds to start to dry, and put it back together. Now's a good time to make sure your wings are level. And if you also wanted to install your brackets, I'm going to choose to glue mine in. There. And we're also going to do the top. Let's go ahead and slide these into place. And there are different notches, so you can just match up the shapes down on the bottom. And the one on the top. And that'll serve as a nice alignment tool and clamp to get all that stuff put together. So let's set this off to the side for now. The next step in the process was we're going to install the tail wheel. The tail wheel actually fits in there either way, but what you want to do is the longer portion of the collar that gets inserted into there, and you're going to install the two screws to hold it. When you do that, the servo arm is going to run parallel to the fuselage in the back. If you put it in backwards, the arm would wind up hitting there, so you could very easily tell which way that goes in. I broke down our hardware packet again. The instructions online are very clear. We're just going to use two of those regular screws to hold that in. Before attaching the tail, it's advised that you check the servo alignment for both the rudder and elevator for neutral. Now, it is advised or recommended that you hook up your radio gear and neutral and set everything at this point. I do have a servo tester that I can do that with, and I always like to cycle servos just to make sure I'm never going to have any issues with them before flight, and it's a good idea to check all those screws at this time. So we're going to do all that before we put on the rear horizontal and vertical tail assemblies and hook up the linkage. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and neutral these out, so you can see that everything's in a as straight as it's going to get positioned. That should help us to obtain and hold neutral. So I'll actually leave that hooked up while we do the tail assembly. All right, since I don't plan on removing this tail, I'm going to go ahead and also apply a little bit of foam tack here around some of these surfaces. Not that I think it truly needs it, but a little bit of extra security, I guess, goes a long way. And now we'll just go ahead and start to tighten up our screws. I've already started this back one. Just so I can see to get things lined up. All right, our tail's on nice and tight. Now there's a single machine screw that stands out from all the others that will go in the bottom of the rudder. And then we are going to go ahead, again, we still have our servo centering tool set up. We're going to make sure that all of those ball links are tight and in position and adjusted. And we're going to go ahead and install both of these screws. So you're going to have the screw head with that washer that's part of it on one side, and then on the other side you're going to have the washer and the nut, so that way that plastic can never pop off that ball, even if it should fail. Now guys, we're going to go ahead and install the steering linkage. So we're going to center up our rudder again, so that's back in our neutral, and we're going to just put in our Z-bend there, and you can eyeball the back to see how straight or not straight you are. So we need to turn that in a good bit. And we'll click that over. Now we gotta, I was gonna say straight, but maybe not. There we go. I like that. Looks good. We're gonna go ahead and install our prop hub. So a little bit of Loctite on these threads goes a long way. Don't need a lot. And we're just going to start all of those screws to get it started, so we know we're not cross-threading anything. We're just going to work them all on evenly. We don't want to drag the hub over the motor. We just want to tighten it on there. And from there, I can go ahead and install our spinner back plate. And then our perfectly balanced prop. Washer. The nut. Now, if you guys don't know, these lugs, these little pins right here, you want to put the prop, they're used as a stop, but I still don't even like the prop fully against it. I like them back a little bit. Now, for this prop and this spinner, those lugs ain't long enough, but it gives you an idea for a reference so you know where to tighten it down. And when you want to just go ahead and verify that, you can just go ahead and place your spinner cone on the front there and make sure it fits. All right, now let me show you guys something here. You can see the way that that prop just rubs on the spinner a little bit. Not uncommon for different combinations, but what we're going to do is we're just going to open that up a little bit with a Dremel tool. All right, guys, we did a little bit of trimming work there to get the spinner to fit a little better around the prop. It does sit really nice in there. It takes a little bit, though, so be patient with it. Work it in. Don't jam it. Don't get frustrated with it. I think because of the chrome coating, it makes the fit a little bit tighter, but just keep working it. Tighten a little bit at each time until you get it in there straight. But otherwise, it looks shiny. I'm not a super big fan of the quality of the spinner, but it you know, it's not a true turn, but you're also not paying for a true turn, and that's the way I look at it. If you want to upgrade it, we'll see how much power this model has, and maybe that's something you can do down the road. But for now, it gives you aesthetically the look of a chrome spinner and a plastic one, but a little bit of modification to it there and some sanding. But, you know, from a distance, a foot or two away, this thing looks phenomenal. As far as just getting it on was just a little bit more work than your typical spinner, but still looks good. All right, what do you guys say we get our wing thrown on? Now, if you're going to be taking your wing on and off, here's a little trick that I use on a lot of like free wing models, stuff like that use the same setup. These bolts that go through when you take the wing off tend to get lost. You drop them, you lose them, you forget them, whatever. I use a E-clip. These are metric E-clips. You can pick the setup off of Amazon. Lots of different sizes, and I just literally clip that right there, and stays put. All right, all of our clips are installed. Now we're just going to go ahead and drop the wing on and tighten down these bolts. Now, we did struggle a little bit getting those bolts in because the one blind nut had some paint in there. But anyway, you can see those. Let me flip this around for you guys. You could see those blind nuts right there. So I flipped my model over. It was easier to see and visualize those to align the screws as well as the front ones. Now we're going to go ahead and foam tack in our exhaust features. When installing these, you're going to have to cut the tabs off, so we're just going to use a hobby knife. We'll go ahead and check our fit right there. That looks pretty good. So then also, so that way we don't have any issues with adhesion, you can scrape just a little bit of that paint off. We're going to install our other little tidbit over there on the wing. That's pretty easy to do. It's magnetic. Simple, simple. Now we're going to go ahead and balance this thing to determine battery placement. Whatever battery you choose. Now, there's a lot of discussion always about where to balance, how to balance, and everything else. So here's the deal. You want to balance this thing in the two most important positions, takeoff and landing. So that means the gear is down. And in the diagram, they show you using the very front edge of the wing, which is going to be this point right here, not back in here. That should lead you, I'm going at 145, the more forward of the CG positions, right at the very back edge of the landing gear opening. And you can balance the model upside down. And the reason people balance models upside down is because there's less to deal with underneath, especially in a low wing warbird like this situation where you have all of that pocket and gear and everything else that could be in the way. The problem with doing it that way is you can't determine battery placement. So I like to do it this way to get a rough idea. Once I think I'm set with the battery that I'm using, I will go ahead and Velcro it into place and then flip it upside down and make sure that I'm as tuned gets. But otherwise, I mean, I think we're with the canopy where it is right now. I just have a small tweak to make in that battery, but that's pretty close. And we're going to try this right at the forward of the recommended CG at 145. One of the last steps before applying decals, we're going to go ahead and set the throws. And let me show you what I did here on the canopy. So I did choose to glue in that antenna post. And all I did on the back was make that a teardrop shape like that. And I think that looks pretty good. I don't think that looks bad at all. Instead of one huge hole. And then I have the ability now to slide that in and back. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to take some of this Blenderm tape, and you can buy this stuff off of Amazon. I really like the 1/2-inch wide stuff, but it's hard to find. It's not out there all the time. So just take a piece of 1-inch. That's what I have here. I use my little roller fabric cutter. It makes it easy. You don't need really wide pieces here. And we'll cut a strip of that. Peel this up. Now I'll just roll that control surface to be able to get in there. Take the piece that I need. And I do this on a lot of foam models, so don't think it's just this one. There's a lot of very high-end manufacturers that use foam hinges. I would love to see them all just stop using foam hinges and go with inserted plastic hinges, but again, if you got to keep the price point right for people, then you can only do so much. And we have lights, we have grass capable, really good landing gear. And when you have oleo type struts and you have lights and you have retracts, you're limited. You can only do so much. So I like doing this from the bottom side. I usually will tack my leading edge first. And Blenderm tape isn't expensive, so if you have to throw it out and get a new piece, no big deal. All right. And like I said, I tack the leading edge first. There's just a little bit too much on that leading edge for my liking. And then once you have that leading edge done, push it down into the crease of the hinge. Put the hinge at full deflection. And it's important you do that because otherwise your tape is going to restrict your movement, and you don't want that. And then you could press down the other side and then back to that leading edge. And that's just going to help to keep that foam joint strong. That's simple. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do that to all the surfaces. Flaps don't need it, ailerons need it, elevator and rudder. Rudder especially needs it. The only thing left to do now, guys, is to go ahead and throw on the decals. So I'm going to kind of just use the box for a reference and then make it my own. I definitely want to do the white numbers up on the tail. And one of the coolest things is they gave you so many of everything. You can do whatever you want. So if two of you guys at the field have the same plane, you want different numbers, cool, go for it. You have plenty here to work with. I really like that they did that. That was a nice touch. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and throw on some water slide decals. So if you've never done water slides, we're just simply going to take that sheet right there. We'll trim what we want. We're going to cut out the number. Going to throw it in a bucket of water for a couple seconds. Do not drip water on your other decals, so we'll move this out of the way. And you want to just simply go ahead, wet this down a little bit. That allows you to work it around in there. I like having mine on a stand so it's level, so I could see if the decals are level or use some of the body lines. And we'll just go ahead and push them on there, use a paper towel to dry them off. So we'll start time lapsing. All right, and our last and most important decal is going to go right there. All right, guys, that wraps her up. I'm pretty happy with the way things look. Let's go ahead and get a once around. So we have all of our blended derm done and all of our surfaces. Again, you can see that I did use that mast and we just cut an elongated slit in the back, which is really even hard to tell it's there. We got all of our decals applied to what I would like. So you can do as much or as little as you want to. Kept it just a little bit, not overdone, somewhat simple. All right, guys, and there you have the assembly of our Yak 11 from HobbyKing. So let's give this thing a once over and final thought. Assembly did not take long at all on this model. It was very easy to understand. The instructions online were phenomenal. Pictures were great. Starting with the front, I like the spinner and the prop combination. We did have to do some trimming there and be patient with the fit, but in order to keep the cost down, I think you get a good look and a nice spinner there without adding a ton of weight and a ton of cost. Otherwise, going down through, we did add some decals to our plane. We did not overdo it. We wound up just keeping it what I thought would look decent, and you know, that's to everybody's different taste or liking. The canopy was a little weird, but we wound up cutting that teardrop shape in the back. You really can't even tell it's there. It didn't open that hole up too big, and I think that turned out to look really good. I like how they did a little bit of detail with the stickers, the lights and stuff on the front on this plane are a nice little touch. I like that pitot tube has a magnet so you can remove it and it doesn't break. The retracts and those oleo type struts are really nice. They look really heavy duty. I like the retracts on this. The tail wheel is a very nice linkage setup. I actually like the tail wheel a lot. We did do the blended derm on all the hinges. The linkage is super beefy with the control rods and the ball links. So that's a super nice touch. The simplicity of the inside. Let me go ahead and pop that canopy off. The simplicity inside is really, really nice. You can see how I tuck my wires down into those foam channels. I just simply slit them, push them in, and re-foam tack them together. So it doesn't really compromise any of that strength. It's still nice and strong. Plenty of room in here to add whatever batteries you want to. This is an SMC 5300. I also balanced it with a 5000 heavy duty Turnigy. So I have two different battery packs that I'm going to run in this and play around. Like I said, the wing is easy to remove with those ribbon cables. It's a nice touch with plenty of room in there. So overall, I think one of the things that I fought with the most was there was some paint in those blind nuts, getting those things started, and as well as every model, I fight getting screws through the bottom to get them aligned up into the tail. But with that being said, fairly easy, straightforward build. I can't wait to get this thing out to the field and maiden it. I hope you'll join me for that one. If you're interested in this Reno Racer semi-scale scheme or the Warbird version of this Yak 11, head on over to www.hobbyking.com. Link for this model down in the description below. You can just go there and check out, see what else they have that may interest you, if not this one. So with that being said, it's Brendan here at Just Plain Crazy. You guys are just plain crazy for hanging out and watching. As always, if you like the build video and appreciate it, do me a favor, smash the thumbs up. It helps the channel out a lot. If you're going to do this thing, make sure you hit that baby twice for me. Like, share, subscribe, all that cool shameless stuff. Check us out over on the official Just Plain Crazy Facebook page, as well as my Instagram. And if you want to follow a build series or other information, rcpilot.com is a very cool place to check out stuff like this that I post on there. So with that being said, until the maiden, we're out of here. I wish you guys happy flights. Peace out.